Welcome to Serious Spoilers. Today I will share a movie based on true story from 2002, titled 8 Mile. Spoilers ahead. Watch and enjoy. The movie opens with Jimmy Rabbit Smith Jr. in the restroom of a pretty seedy looking place. There is music playing, he's wearing a pair of headphones, and looking pretty green. He appears to be mouthing the words of whatever he's listening to, and he's making a lot of gestures we've come to expect from people rapping. All of a sudden he rushes to a toilet and vomits. After he recovers, he takes off his headphones and we hear different music playing. It's pretty obvious he's in a club. He leaves and tries to get backstage, but the doorman won't let him in. Then Future intercedes and Rabbit is allowed in. Future and Rabbit hook up with their pal Saul, who seems obsessed with prostitutes, Cheddar Bob, a rather dull-witted white guy, and DJ, a somewhat militant intellectual who, it is insinuated, is gay. Apparently, these guys are a rap group, but Rabbit is frequently solo here. Strangely enough, the five guys walk back out the door Rabbit just fought to enter, so that Rabbit can walk to a dumpster to retrieve his garbage bag/suitcase. It appears that Rabbit's girl just broke up with him. She claims she's pregnant, so he let her keep the apartment and the car. The friends seem to doubt the veracity of the pregnancy, but Rabbit shrugs it off. Rabbit pulls a clean shirt from his bag to replace the one he vomited on, and they return to the club, the Shelter. Rabbit's pals are teasing him about his nervousness, which arises from the rap battle he is about to face. Future is the MC of the Shelter, and after a brief scene with the two contestants before Rabbit's round, including Papa Doc, the current champ, Future hypes up Rabbit to the audience before he comes out to face his opponent. The opponent goes first and does a fairly decent 45 seconds, the time limit for each in the battle, and Rabbit is given the mic. He mumbles a couple of words that sound something like, "Yo," and basically stares terrified at the audience. At this point the only two white people observed are Cheddar Bob and Rabbit, and there is quite a bit of hostility from many of the people Rabbit encounters here. Not surprisingly, the crowd delights in Rabbit's choke. Rabbit's friends try to encourage him, but he just shrugs it off and heads away. After a montage of Rabbit's journey through a horribly depressing area of Detroit, he arrives at an equally depressing looking trailer park and uses his key to let himself into one. Here we see the mom and her boy toy are making out on the couch and Rabbit interrupted. He backs out and later mom comes out and is simultaneously apologizing, gives him a beer and ticked off at him for not calling or knocking. He did call, but the phone was disconnected. Boy toy comes out, and it's a guy Rabbit went to high school with. Apparently, Greg is about to come into some money, but meantime, he's sponging off of mom. After they rag him about getting fired from Little Caesars and the fact that he now works in a plant, Greg hits a sore spot for Rabbit, who throws the beer bottle at him. Mom tells Rabbit he can stay, but he's got to play nice to Greg. Later Rabbit sings to his little sister, in a scene where it's obvious Lily is his pride and joy. Later, Mom and Rabbit are talking in the kitchen, catching up, and he asks her for a ride to work the next morning. She gives him the keys to her car and tells him it's an early birthday present. The next morning, Rabbit tries to start the car and it's pretty much dead. Saul sympathizes, but can't offer a ride, because his mom has his car. Rabbit takes the bus, is late to his job, and his boss tells him if he screws up again, he's fired. Rabbit responds by first saying it's not his fault, and then asking for extra shifts. Yeah, the boss laughs. At this point, Alex walks up to them and asks for somebody who works there. Rabbit offers to show her, but boss cuts him off and sends him packing. Rabbit watches them walk off and it's pretty obvious he's got the hots for Alex. That evening, Rabbit and his pals hook up and party at a club. Several people comment about the choke the evening before. Alex is at the club, and Rabbit is half paying attention to his friends and mostly watching Alex dance with her girl pal. During the talk, it appears that a local entrepreneur is offering to get Rabbit a free demo. He is also helping Alex get a book together for her to get a modeling contract. Rabbit and Alex meet up outside the club and talk a bit. Alex is attracted to Rabbit's potential as a star more than to Rabbit himself. His friends and her friend join them and they go to Saul and DJ's house, they're brothers. After more than a few drinks, they decide to burn down a local abandoned house where a little girl was raped and murdered. The guys convince Rabbit by pointing out it could have been Lily. Rabbit at work the next day, on time but pretty distracted. He and a coworker are grumbling and talking, not really paying attention. On his break, his ex-girlfriend shows up, giving him a hard time about ditching her. He promises her it wasn't her, but him. She rags him about his loser life and choking at the battle, and they argue a bit. All through this, Rabbit keeps trying to get her to leave, fearing this will be the last screw up for his boss. After she leaves, a boss is there, gives him a hard time, but when Rabbit stops himself from saying it's not his fault, the boss lets it go. Later, Rabbit hooks up with his friends and they are driving around Detroit, listening to music and bagging on each other. They pass a parking lot where Papa Doc, Slick, and their gang of friends are hanging out. They join these guys, who are rapping, and Rabbit joins in the rapping. He's teased, then harassed by a lot by Papa Doc's friends, who's trying to play peacemaker and get Rabbit to do the free demo, hoping to cash in when Rabbit gets his deal. Things get pretty tense, but not out of hand. The next day at work, Rabbit is out in the lunch truck area, listening to a female coworker rap about her life. She's interrupted by a pretty scummy male coworker who raps about her being lazy and whiny, then moves on to other coworkers, including the pretty sharp-dressed gay dude. Rabbit steps up and raps the guy into his place, defending the gay guy, dissing the other guy, and defending the woman before letting her finish up the rap. Alex, who happens to be there, watches. Rabbit goes up and asks her out. She one-ups him, asking him to take her somewhere now. He pulls her into the plant, which is mostly deserted during lunch. They have sex. Greg informs Rabbit that despite Mom's attempts to prevent Greg from finding out, Greg knows Mom is about to be evicted. He beats up Mom. Rabbit gets furious that Greg is physically abusing his mother and verbally abusing Rabbit. There is a pretty violent scene, where Rabbit eventually tosses Greg out, then is pretty bothered to realize that Lily watched the whole thing. At some point later, Mom is drunk on the front porch. Rabbit helps her in the house. Mom tells him that Greg got his check and dumped her. Mom blames this all on Rabbit and tells him to get the hell out, while muttering that she's got to go to bingo. Rabbit takes Lily to a neighbor and heads out for a while. Rabbit decides to take Slick up on the demo offer. It appears he ditches work for this, going to the local radio station where he's supposed to meet with the up-and-coming rap star, who's going to help him to get the free demo. Rabbit first observes the rapper during his radio interview, then notices Alex and the Slick getting it on in the next room. He rushes in and beats Slick to a bloody pulp. There's a window in the wall between the two rooms, but the rapper and the interviewer are completely oblivious to the whole thing. Obviously, the demo idea is history. Rabbit goes home, gets Lily from the neighbor, and heads home. As they are walking into the yard, Slick and his friends drive up. Rabbit sends Lily into the house, telling her to lock the door, and gets beat to a bloody pulp by the entire group while Lily watches. After he's cleaned himself up, Mom comes home, sober and carrying a bag of groceries. She's all happy and forgiving, because they're not getting evicted after all. She wanted bingo. Rabbit and Mom have a fairly civil conversation considering the previous events, and he tells her he's going to pay for the demo on his own, by working double shifts. The next day, the day before the next scheduled rap battle, Rabbit and his friends are hanging out and Rabbit discovers that Future signed him up for another battle without Rabbit's permission. Rabbit and Future have a blowout. The day of the battle, Rabbit is at work, but before the battle is supposed to start, he gets the gay guy to cover for him for a few hours. He shows up, makes up with Future, and has another bathroom scene, but this time, he doesn't vomit. The guys all rally around him, encouraging him. He faces off against two guys, winning against both times going second and really responding well to their raps against him, and ending up in the finals against Papa Doc. Papa Doc chooses to let Rabbit go first and he does. Knowing that Papa Doc is going to bring up all the humiliating things that have happened, Rabbit raps about all that, acknowledging his faults and humiliations first, and then ups that to humiliate Papa Doc. Papa Doc then chokes and Rabbit wins. Afterward, everyone is really hyped about the win, but Rabbit, knowing if he's going to do the demo himself he's got to earn the money, goes back to work. We see him walking away as Lose Yourself is played. What did you think of the movie? I want to hear your comments below. Thanks everyone for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Until the next spoiler.